Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 5 of What Have They Done to Our Sport? I'm joined by, as always, my co-host, Mike Messier. How's it going?
It's going well, Cole Scharff. It's Mikey Messier. Hashtag what have they done to our sport? We encourage everyone to watch, retweet, share. Want to give a special thanks to all the wrestling fans, all the Facebook groups, all the Twitter people that have been supporting our show. Anyone happens to catch this on the apps that Cole's going to tell you about or on Reddit, anywhere, feel free to share this show. This show is for everybody.
Yes, sir, it is. We got a good one tonight. We're in our third match of our series we're doing. SummerSlam 2000, the TLC match between Edge Christian, the Hardy Boys, and the Dudley Boys. But we're going to go over some things first. We'll get to that. I'm going to start it off with UFC 225. CM Punk, obviously, CM Punk's one of my favorite wrestlers of all time. The last really star in my eyes that's been in the WWE that could do it all, And
Right.
he got his ass kicked. But I will give it to he improved. He improved from his first fight, and the dude made $503,000 to get his ass kicked. So, sign me up. Sign me up. I'll take that kind of money any day of the week. I think he's done with UFC, but I think he appears at All In. I think his first return to wrestling is at All In, and it's going to blow the roof off that fucking place. What did you think of the fight?
I think it's an interesting thing for CM Punk. Look, he's following a dream, which is to test himself athletically, and in the world of combat sports, it doesn't get any more real these days than UFC.
Yep.
What boxing once was, UFC has supplanted as far as who's the bad guys, the toughest guys, whatever you want to call it. And I think it's one of those things. There was an old expression that I learned from Pro Wrestling Illustrated's Eddie Elner, believe it or not, which is the spirit was willing, but the flesh was unable. And he was describing the physique of a woman's wrestler at the time. But in CM Punk's case, that same phrase applies. The spirit was willing, but the flesh was unable. Give the guy a lot of credit. He made weight, and I'm not joking around, because losing weight, even when you have months or years to try to do it, is tough. But for a professional athlete in those mixed martial arts fights, it's very difficult. And I think, was it 160 that he was down to, or less than 160?
It was less than 160. I heard that he's lost 40 pounds since the last time he was in the WWE.
Well, look, he also went to court, and, he put it best himself. He won his court battle that same week, and even now there's some developments on the guy that took him to court, and we don't want to get put in court, so maybe we won't say too much, but maybe we will. The report today about that doctor who was taking CM Punk to court and all that trouble was that court documents revealed that very same WWE trainer or doctor was having a relationship of a adult nature with former WWE diva Jillian Hall.
Oh, see, now you're gonna have them coming after us with a lawsuit. I can't afford lawyer fees and shit like that. They'll drag it out for 2 years. No, if that's,
you might take my Ole Anderson action figure.
Geez, now here he comes. But I feel like if you're gonna, don't throw rocks at a glass house. You went after CM Punk. The WWE intentionally fucked with him, intentionally made it right on his fight week, and I think it's called karma. And if this comes out to be true, and he, whatever, then good. I hope so, because that dude looked stupid in court because of CM Punk, and if this, this just makes him look even worse. And like you said on your post, what's your employer doing? Nothing. Your employer's not doing anything about it. You know what I mean? It's just like the WWE in general is just so hypocritical, and they're so fucking they'll bury shit that they want to bury, but they'll fucking suspend Titus O'Neil 30 days because he told Vince McMahon ladies first, so Stephanie McMahon could walk in the ramp. Or it might have been 60 days. I don't know.
I think it was supposed to be 90, and they reduced it to 60. Which is about 59 days too many, if not 60 days too many.
Yeah, and the dude just won Father of the Year, and you're gonna fucking suspend him for telling you ladies first, for being respectful, because he might have made you look a little bit fucking down to earth in front of your boys. And And then he'll do this shit to CM Punk. He fired him with divorce papers in the mail on his fucking wedding date. That ain't a coincidence, man. They did that shit on purpose. This court trial, they drug it out for fucking 4 years and then did it 2 weeks before his fight. I mean, it's just ridiculous. But anyways, he showed good heart. He's done. I think he'll come back into wrestling. But again, 503,000, and his opponent only made 24,000. How pissed would you be?
If I was the opponent, I'd probably be happy to make the 24,000 because that guy wouldn't have made, any more than that fighting anybody else. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and then Dana White after the fight was talking shit about him on the press conference. He's like, I've never seen something so unprofessional. He's like, I don't know what that Jackson dude was doing before his fight tonight, but he better go back to doing it because he's not fighting in the UFC anymore. So
well, I'll say this, and this is we'll get off the UFC subject real quick, but Dana White has also said that he never have a John Bones Jones fight again after the steroid issues. And I think Dana was talking about Jones and fucking Brock Lesnar, who's another proven steroid user who's been suspended in the past from UFC for steroids.
Wait, time out real quick. On that point, sorry to cut you off. He's been suspended in the UFC for steroids. Meanwhile, after he got suspended from the UFC, he showed up on Monday Night Raw as the fucking champion and no consequences whatsoever. That just goes back to them being hypocritical. Sorry to cut you off.
Well, it's fine. It's convenient morality. And what it is, and we're going to go to some topics. I know that folks might be watching us for the first time. We want to thank Vince Russo personally on behalf of myself and Cole for really getting us more viewership. We know some great guys, Ben Hameen and Hambone and JG with Generating Heat and all the support. If I'm forgetting someone, Stevie Richards, even Disco Inferno, although he's a Las Vegas Golden Knights fan, and everybody with the Vince Russo group. But also, this show is for everyone. I mean, we don't say it's for everyone, but then go to Saudi Arabia and we can't wear a certain T-shirt or we leave the women's roster at home.
Nice. Yep.
Because we're not hypocrites. At least we try not to be. Or at least I'll say this. We're all hypocrites, but at least we can admit to it. And I think that's one thing that I'd like to get into a little bit later is the big picture of being a wrestling fan and what that means for your moral integrity. People may not be expecting this topic. This is something that I struggle with. People might think this is beyond a typical wrestling video cast to talk about the morals and the ethics of being a wrestling fan. Cole, you and I both have a lot of issues with WWE, yet you and I are both watching matches on the network. We're both putting our $10 a month into Vince McMahon's hands because at the end of the day, it's sugar and corn syrup.
Yes,
we're addicted to wrestling. At least we can admit it, and then we can go from there.
You are absolutely right. I mean, it's like you said, and we'll get into some of the things that happened in what the match we reviewed, which again was SummerSlam 2000. Some of the shit that happened and the safety wise and shit that they're also hypocritical about. But like you said, we still watch it, so here we are. You know what I mean?
Right, we still watch it, and it's a big topic tonight, which maybe we'll just go into it. But if there's ever other things of the moment, just jump right in before I go into this thing.
Then let me get this off because you brought up Vince Russo. I'm gonna go ahead and put Vince Russo over. Vince Russo is the greatest writer wrestling's ever had. All these haters that Vince Russo has is ridiculous, and I'm gonna steal a line from Enzo. All hate is jealousy hidden inside. So obviously, all you haters are jealous of him. Like Mike said, I want to thank him for putting me and him together because all kinds of alleys are opening ever since I've been a fan of Vince and followed Vince. Also, I'm going to put over Rocky Mountain Pro. They have a Twitch page, Rocky Mountain Pro on Twitch. You can see us on Jets Fan Cole on Twitch. I'm going to change that name to a permanent name that's not just to me. But as of right now, it's Jets Fan Cole on Twitch. Every Thursday night at 8 o'clock Mountain Time. Check it out. It's old school wrestling, storylines, characters, the stuff that we're bitching about in WWE. Rocky Mountain Pro has it. So that's all I'm going to say about Vince Russo. And I was on Castrating the Marks last night, so thank you for letting me come on Castrating the Marks.
That's awesome.
Go ahead, sorry.
Well, the thing is, as I drink from the Mighty Road Warrior Cup, here's to everybody. Here's a toast from Hawk and Animal and Mike Messier. A little sip. I want to get into a subject here. You mentioned Vince Russo. It's funny how, people will blame Vince Russo for all things evil in the world of pro wrestling or, beaver cleavage or whatever, or putting the WCW title on himself for a cup of coffee, so to speak. But when people want to credit the Attitude Era. They credit Vince McMahon, but they blame Vince Russo. And I could go into a whole thing about that, which I have before. But getting off of that for just a moment, it is a thing, Cole, where convenient morality, and we've seen this with Cody Rhodes, we see this with a lot of people. If you like someone, or if you like a pro wrestling federation, or sports entertainment company, you'll forgive or you look the other way when they do things that are odd or unethical or against your own moral fiber. A big example of this is as follows. The WWE got a lot of criticism, but not a whole lot, but for me especially, for doing the show in Saudi Arabia and leaving the women's roster at home. Even Dave Meltzer criticized them, and I believe he did, and others criticized them. At the same time, people kind of do backflips as fans and go crazy with 6.25 star ratings for New Japan Pro Wrestling matches.
Don't bring up the star ratings, because we'll be here for 3 hours with me burying that shit.
Just as a metaphor, I get you, buddy. But people go crazy over what's going on in New Japan, and perhaps rightfully so. They're doing some great matches. However, New Japan Pro Wrestling doesn't do women's matches at all. They have separate wrestling federations in Japan for women's action, which are well respected, but not of that same, platform, that same template. You know what I mean? That same higher echelon of mainstream acceptance or popularity. There have been some awesome, outstanding women's wrestlers from Japan, as we all know, but it is an interesting thing where the same fans that'll criticize and even crucify the WWE for not bringing their women's roster to Saudi Arabia, and no one criticized them more than I did with my article of challenging the WWE's relationship in Saudi Arabia, which actually is what got us here, because I happened to get on the Vince Russo Sunday Night Show, April 30th, 2018, cut the promo, the greatest wrestling promo from fan or wrestler since Austin 316 in June of 1996, and I basically put it all in perspective in about 2.5 minutes. However, at the same time, people are watching New Japan Pro Wrestling and they just write it off as, well, it's a cultural difference. Cultural differences are quite interesting because, you could say that Hitler had cultural differences. You could say that South Africa in the 1980s had cultural differences. You could say that the countries that are involved in human slave trade or exploitation of children or factory workers, we can all call it a cultural difference if we want.
Yep.
My point here is to challenge the wrestling fan a little bit, in perhaps ways that they're not ready to be challenged. We're probably losing people right now because when I bring up politics involved in wrestling, a great deal of intellectual people, very intelligent people, they want to compartmentalize their lives. Hey, I'll be political. I'll talk about Trump. I'll talk about Obama. I'll talk about Hillary. I'll say left wing, right wing, whatever. Alex Jones, conspiracy theory, Mark Dice, CNN, Fox News, whatever their viewpoints are, they'll be very opinionated. Those same people, and some of the people still listening right now might be amongst these people. Those same people, if you try to put a little spin on pro wrestling into the world of politics, they get very defensive, they shut down, they click away.
Yep.
So therefore, I'm risking some of our audience right now, but the people that are sticking with us because they're kind of getting their minds are just crackling a little bit. Where's this guy headed? I think as pro wrestling fans, we invest so much time, money, effort, and energy. I mean, I've got Arn Anderson on my wall. That's me and Jimmy Valiant, okay? That's me and Ox Baker, a good friend of mine, in the Iron Sheik. There's a lot of my life that's gone into pro wrestling, and a lot of people watching this. If you're watching this, you're in on the joke. But the joke's on us, because we've been distracted. World events, politics, policies, our money that we put into wrestling is being channeled, is being funneled to things bigger than wrestling. We're buying into the bread and circus distraction that is professional wrestling. This wasn't the case 20 or 30 years ago. I don't think it was. Nope. I think it's a new development. I'm talking the last 5 or 6 years, everybody. When you're looking at Vince McMahon and you're seeing that he has Linda McMahon working with Donald Trump, that's something to take note of, a lot more than people have taken note of. Yes, some people have taken note of that, but not many people have.
Yeah, so, it's another thing that they try and bury.
They try to bury it. And what I'm going to ask the wrestling fans tonight, still watching me is this is not me being left wing, right wing, or any type of fucking wing. I voted third fucking party, everybody. I'll just say that. For president for 2016, I was so disgusted with both major parties, Republican and Democrat, that I voted very third party. Not something I couldn't even make up my mind until the day of the election, Cole, because I was so disgusted. So that I want to put out there, not because I want to discuss my political beliefs, but because I want people to know that I'm not pushing an agenda. I'm just pushing the agenda that the wrestling fan, guys that I've known, and women too, that are very intelligent, don't allow our corn syrup and sugar addiction of pro wrestling to cloud or distract you from the real world events. That's all I'm trying to get across.
Yes, sir. And you're right. And like you said, it's they sweep that Linda McMahon's in the White House under the rug. Like no one even talks about it. That's a wrestling fan besides people that are down to earth and follow what else is going on in the world. You know what I mean?
Well, let's put it this way. This big deal. WWE is going to do network television with Fox, correct?
Yep.
2019.
I give that 14 weeks and then Fox ends the contract.
Well, that's a very interesting prediction. Why do you predict that already?
Because I don't think they understand that the ratings have been going down for 15 months straight.
Okay.
And I don't think they know what the fuck wrestling is. I think they just wanted to get that WWE name on their fucking brand, and they think it's gonna, fix a lot of things. And everybody's always talking about the stock market and how WWE's doing better financially than ever. I made this point before, and I'll make it again. Fox paid the NFL 3 times the amount for 1/4 of the amount of content. So.
Well, yeah, but once again, it's how many more viewers does the NFL get? But people are losing faith in the NFL as well.
Yeah. I hear that, but I don't believe it, man. Their tickets sales were up all the way around the league. Fucking, you know what I mean? The viewership really didn't drop that much at all. I think the Patriots being dominant for 20 fucking years is hurting the NFL more than anything else. But
Cole, the Jets fan, you would think that.
Of course, fuck Tom Brady. But no, he's the best quarterback of all time. But anyways, no, I just feel like this Fox deal is just everyone's blowing it out of proportion. $1 billion isn't really that much money when you're getting 3 hours, 52 hours a week. That's what 175 hours, 175, whatever, a shitload of hours of content. You know what I mean? For 5 years. So it's $1 billion over 5 years. So it's like, what, 500 grand a year, some shit like that they're getting to?
Yeah,
500 million?
I like your style of thinking, and the WWE should have a guy like you or you negotiate on their behalf.
Yeah.
Because what I feel that the value WWE brought to that deal and to any deal is consistency. Yes, the ratings are going down, and Triple H or whoever will make a case that the ratings are going down because more people are watching the network or YouTube, or more people click in or DVDR or so on and so forth. So I get that. But I think the consistency that people like you and me are very loyal to pro wrestling. And if all we have left is WWE, and of course there's Anthem Wrestling and there's New Japan, which I want to talk about too, believe it or not.
You fucking Mark.
Well,
I'm just kidding.
Here's the thing. The rest of that conversation I want to have, and we can talk about WWE, but also New Japan.
Yep.
And any promotion, even Sami Callihan with a baseball bat, Eddie Edwards' eye. I want to ask the wrestling fans out there, does the ethical or moral or both standards of a pro wrestling promotion, if you question their ethics, if you question their morality, do you contribute less money to their promotion? These are the examples. The WWE not doing shows with women or doing shows without their women roster. Going back to WWE, how they've treated CM Punk. WWE, how they've had questionable standards with African-American characters. Even 5 or 6 years ago, the character, you had Shelton Benjamin and his mama, which was just kind of funny, but you also had the guy that guy that came out to the Somebody Call My Mama song, Titus.
Titus, yeah.
Not Titus, the big guy that went to
oh
TNA.
My goodness, what's his name? Brodus Clay.
Brodus Clay. And a lot of people found that character to be somewhat offensive. I really didn't. I saw the comedy in it.
I liked it.
But there was a WrestleMania that Brodus came out with a bunch of dancing mamas. And some people I was watching was like, man, this is pretty bad. You go into things like Kamala or different characters that we might have all well loved and everything, but some of that stuff is kind of questionable. Things like Piggy James, the Mickey James overweight angle. Even some people got a little upset with the Alexa Bliss, Nia Jax thing. I didn't really get upset with that. At the end of the day,
hold on though. Everybody got upset about the shit that's real life, but yet they didn't really, their ratings said it sucked, but they were okay with having them dress men as women to act like fucking Bobby Lashley's sister.
Right, and some people got upset with that. I mean, I particularly didn't. Some people thought that was an insult to transgender people or cross-dressers. I just saw it as a goofy wrestling angle, the Bobby Lashley thing. The thing is, what I'm asking people is, if something like this upsets you, for me, the big thing was, let's compromise our women's evolution to do a show in Saudi Arabia. Also, I kind of got upset when they had, the Weasley manager guy help Carmella win the women's Women in the Bank match. I actually sent a letter. Get this. I typed a letter up and sent it to Triple H, Shane McMahon, Stephanie McMahon, the SmackDown creative writing team, and Vince McMahon. Yeah, that's true. I actually did that.
Nice.
When they had James Ellsworth help Carmella win the first ever women's Money in the Ladder match, because I thought it was offensive to promote this women's big match and then have a man win it.
Yeah.
And guess what? When the WWE just did they were trying to nominate themselves for an Emmy for their Women's Evolution special in the network, they conveniently edited out James Ellsworth's involvement in that match.
Oh, of course, because that goes back to what we brought up earlier. They're hypocrites. They hide what they want. They push what they want. It's ridiculous. Like you said, they cut that out because everybody forgot about it. Non-wrestling fans don't remember it because, they've done all this women's revolution. That's all. See, this is how they do it. They're fucking smart. I'll give them that because, listen, hardcore wrestling fans remember shit like that, right? Just the ordinary people that hear about a women's revolution that read headlines, well, they don't know any fucking different. All they see is the goddamn headlines. All they see is what the WWE puts out there because they don't take the time to watch the shit that goes down. You know what I mean? So nobody knows about that Ellsworth shit except for us. So the people that work for the Emmys or whatever award they wanted to get has no idea that even happened. All they see is, WWE women's revolution, women revolution. Women make shit money compared to the men, but it's a women's revolution. They're taking the same fucking bumps nowadays because that's what they got to do to get on TV, and they're making 1/3 or if not half the fucking money that the men are making, and it's bullshit. So this whole women's revolution thing is fucking horseshit, and it's just a way for them to try and get ratings. I don't care what anybody fucking says. You know what I mean? Don't get me wrong, I miss bra and panties matches, but it's cool to see these women out here being athletic and using athletic abilities. But I don't sit here and think they need to sit here, it's a women's revolution. We do this, this, and this. It's 2018 and you just now have a women's revolution? You pay them half what the fuck you pay the men. They're hypocrites and it drives me fucking nuts. And nobody calls them out for their bullshit. You know what I mean?
Well, that's what we're doing. And we're trying, for me, that the best thing we can do with our video cast, and I call it a video cast because you can see us. We're not hiding. Not that guys with podcasts are hiding, but we're here, we're talking. So people, they can listen to us and put a different window on their screen or, with my TV cable system, people can watch the show with Verizon Fios on YouTube. A lot of people don't know this, but with Fios at least, you get YouTube on your TV. So people can watch us on their home definition TVs if they want. 4D, watch Mike and Cole talk wrestling on their TV set, like we're coming into your home.
Soon enough.
So my point is,
you think we'd ever get a show on the WWE Network talking about WWE like this?
Well, the thing is, that takes us to our buddy or the guy that I like a lot, Conrad Thompson, and I cut a video the day before they went on the network talking about something else to wrestle with Bruce Pritchard and Conrad Thompson, and I cut a video. Did Bruce and Conrad sell out? And I just cut a video where I was just talking about, as a longtime fan of those guys, a really great show, great chemistry. Are they selling out by going on the network? And my basic answer was, yeah, they are, but so what?
No, here's my. I don't agree with that, because if they keep their show the way they want and they have creative control and they say the shit they've been saying about the WWE, because they haven't kissed the WWE's ass really once. They've been honest about Vince Russo. They've been honest about pretty much everything, and they're putting their spin on it. They're not letting the WWE shit on it. That's why they had problems with this ECW episode. There was a bunch of shit in there about CM Punk. The WWE didn't want to use it. I haven't watched it, so I don't know if they kept it original or not. But like that's why it was supposed to come out Wednesday, but it didn't come out till Friday, because they were trying to figure out what they were gonna do. So as long as they do it that way and they don't let WWE fucking put their spin on it and they're being real, I don't think they're selling out. They're just collecting extra money.
It's interesting, because it's kind of like the creative control thing is very interesting, and that goes back to, Bret Hart had creative control contracts, Hulk Hogan did, but those were actual wrestlers. Now we're talking about podcasting. We're talking about Conrad, who takes a lot of pride in his work, and Bruce Pritchard, who takes a lot of pride in his work. But I think it's fair to say, and I'm not speaking for either of those guys, but that deep down Bruce probably wishes he was still with, the WWE to some level.
Oh, I mean, when they brought him back for Raw 25, he was marking out hardcore, and I'm sure anybody that used to be with the company wants to be part of that company for that money. But I feel like he's doing it. He's part of the company. I feel like the WWE needs that podcast on their network more than they need to be on that network. They were doing just fine without the network. You know what I mean? And That show being on the network is the most talked about thing on the network that I've heard about since Holy Foley. You know what I mean? Or Legends House. Those were the only two shows I really heard any hype about. Other than that, the shit on the network sucks, really, in my opinion. Besides
the original stuff, the new stuff?
Yeah. Legends House was cool. They could bring that back. I don't know why they haven't done that again. But this podcast with Conrad and Bruce, which I'm not a fan of Conrad anymore, really, because he keeps ducking me on Twitter because I fucking proved him wrong. He just doesn't have the balls to admit it.
About what?
I talked about last week how I told him that, Eric Bischoff's calling out all these people. Why don't you have a podcast and let these people come on and have a conversation with Eric Bischoff? And he replied to me, oh, nobody would listen to that anyways. They do exist, but nobody listens to it. So then all of a sudden, earlier this week, Bret Hart fucking comes out saying Eric Bischoff's the dumbest motherfucker in wrestling history. He didn't have any ideas that did anything, blah, blah, blah. You're telling me nobody would listen to that podcast? Them two going at it for 45 minutes to an hour trying to figure their shit out. No one's going to listen to that? With Conrad mediating it? That would break the internet, dude. In the wrestling world.
Douglas debates of pro wrestling.
That would break the internet in the wrestling podcast world. I promise you that'd break the CM Punk Colt Cabana podcast download numbers.
But you're giving away some good ideas tonight, man. You gotta hold on to some of this shit.
Sorry, man. I'm just pumped up. I just hate that. I hate that this dude that people fucking they want to make you look stupid, and then you make them look stupid, and then they fucking ignore you. It drives me nuts. I know he's seen it. He's a popular guy, but he ain't fucking that popular. You saw my first tweet. How does he not see the replies to that same fucking tweet?
Well, Conrad, I still like Conrad. I just say that sometimes. And I'll just say this in a general sense, but a little specifically with WWE. I think what happens, and I'm just conjecturing, but I have been in Titan Tower very briefly, but I was in there once. I think what happens with some of these guys, and women too, who work there, who receive a paycheck, they love to let it fly. They love to just say whatever the fuck they want. But they know that there's going to be so much bullshit and repercussions and, as Bruce Pritchard would say, rumor and innuendo, that sometimes they have to take the hit that they'd rather have, in this case, he'd rather have Cole pissed at him and tweeting at him left and right than dealing with the people that are signing these paychecks. And maybe it is just a one-season deal. Maybe it's a two-season deal. Who knows? That's their show. That's their deal. But I think sometimes we have to keep in mind it's a tough company to do business with. It's not as easy as maybe it should be or we'd like it to be.
Yep. I just feel like you're gonna take the time out of your fucking day to call me out and say my idea was stupid, and then I didn't even have to prove you fucking wrong. Bret Hart coming out and saying the shit he said about Eric Bischoff proves my point. You know what I mean? And then you're just gonna ignore me. Just be like, hey man, good idea. Maybe we'll try it. Give me some fucking credit. Don't just blatantly ignore me.
Or send you a T-shirt.
Yeah, or don't blatantly fucking ignore me when I proved you and made you look stupid. That's I made
Conrad $10,000 and all I got was this lousy T-shirt.
Yeah, right, exactly. I don't dislike the guy. He's great at what he does, and I won't take that away from him. But it irritates me when people are like that. But
let's move on. What else have we got? Because I got more stuff. What do you got, bro?
I got Enzo. I listened to an Enzo interview on 50 Cent TV or 50 something TV on YouTube. I don't know. He put the link on his Twitter page. Apparently, he's got 30 to 40 songs ready to drop down. So
30 to 40.
He said he's got 3 full albums ready to come out. He's just he's just timing it. But then he said those songs he dropped, that Phoenix song, was him replying to the that rape allegation. He said it wasn't really a rap song. He said his rap on his CD is going to be different. That was more of a message. Same with the Bury Me G one. That was a shot at WWE. So he said those are messages. He said again when his albums come out, it's going to be way different. Apparently, he's been working with some fucking great-ass producers, he said. He's trying to get into movies. He's working on all kinds of fucking shit. So that dude's cool. And he kind of got into detail about how he was on the rocks the whole time he was in the WWE. Did you know he was a rapper before he was a WWE wrestler?
Not really. I knew that he was from New Jersey, right?
Yeah, so the way he got a job was somebody was recording him rapping and practicing boxing and shit, and somebody gave it to Triple H and they hired him. They trained him to be a wrestler from never being a wrestler. And he said he would go home at night and write for hours and stand in the mirror, look in the mirror, make faces, come up with shit. He said he probably wrote 15,000 words, and then that's how he came up with Soft. SAWFT. He's like, if I would have never spent that much time writing, I would have never came up with the catchphrase that took me to the fucking moon. You know, so that really hit home to me because that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to go to the moon with this podcast. And so, we got to put in the time and shit. And so when I hear shit like that, and this dude got fucked over, and his life's probably in a better position than it was when he was in WWE because he said he was on the ropes the whole time he was in the WWE. He said he got to the Performance Center every single day before his boss because just so his boss didn't have a reason to yell at him. And this interview really brought me, I've liked Enzo, but it really, closed a lot of things up and show what kind of dude he is. So check it out. It's on YouTube. He posted it on his Twitter page. I can't remember. It was like 50 Cent TV or some shit. I don't fucking know. But it's a great interview. Check it out.
It's a video interview, not a print interview.
Yep, it's a video interview. So check it out. You can see the emotion in the dude's words and his feeling. He didn't take one shot at the WWE. Not one shot. When he has every opportunity and every chance to fucking bury them fucking douchebags, he didn't take one shot at the WWE. So that surprised me.
I'll say this about Enzo, and this was about a year and a half ago, maybe more. I was writing a screenplay, feature film script, titled Also Ran, and the script has actually gone on to win an award at the Mediterranean Film Festival Screenplay Award for Best Drama. And basically, the script has a character that I wrote, 2 characters that I wrote, and the dream casting would actually be Kevin Nash and Enzo Amore working together. Because I was thinking of that big man, small man thing. And really, when I think big man, small man, 20 years ago or 25 now, Shawn Michaels and Diesel.
Yep.
And more recently, the last 2 or 3 years, Enzo and Cass. And, on the acting scene, the group that I work with, Woodhaven Media and another group out of Connecticut, Shout Out Films, have worked with Kevin Nash several times.
Yep.
He's in The Manor, a script that I co-wrote with Two Cousins Productions and Tommy DiNucci, and now The Manor with Kevin Nash is on video on demand. So anyone watching this podcast after the video cast is over, what have they done to our sport? Check out The Manor. But I was thinking Kevin Nash and Enzo together in this script that I wrote also ran. So my point is just that Enzo is one of the guys who really got over with the gift of gab in the last 5 or 6 years. Maybe not since CM Punk, to be honest with you, as far as talking.
He was the best on mic guy they had by far in that company. By far in that company.
Cool voice, and that's one thing, Cole, that people don't think about. But why do certain guys, when they say something, it resonates more than others? It's because of the voice.
Yep, the voice and the passion. I can feel when people are saying shit that they're actually into. They actually feel instead of just going out there. Oh, I'm on bullet point 3. Let me remember to say this. Oh, I got to remember to say this. Oh, this. You know what I mean? That shit. He came up with that shit. It came from him. So he was more passionate about it. You know what I mean? So that's Stone Cold Steve Austin. That shit came off the dome. You know what I mean? That shit wasn't wrote word for word. That's why we bought into it, because you could feel that shit. Same with The Rock. Same with Enzo. Same with CM Punk. You know, the pipe bomb is one of the greatest promos, I think, in wrestling history. They fucking shut the mic off on the guy. And that wasn't a work. That was a fucking shoot. I don't care what anybody says. And that's why you can feel it more from him than those other guys, because that shit meant something to him. It came from him. It wasn't just a piece of paper fucking handed to him. And, oh, you got to read this word for word, and that's what you got to say, and you got to put that over like your character. You know what I mean? That's hard for anybody to do. And that's another thing he said. He said some guys would go into that company and they would be told how to walk, talk, not walk, facial expressions to make, when to make them. He's like, it's so over-scripted. And to me, that wasn't taking a shot. That was just being honest. But I could go on about Enzo all night and how fucked up everything is. I'm on a roll tonight, man. I'm feeling it. I'm feeling good.
What else is on your mind, bro?
This pissed me off. I haven't listened to it. I just seen the headline and I'm not gonna listen to it. Jim Cornette made a fucking video cast about Vince Russo leaving Twitter. If you don't like the guy so much, you hate the guy so much, he's a disgrace, blah blah blah. Why can't you keep his fucking name out of your mouth? Why do you make an episode about Vince Russo at least once a month? Why? If you hate the guy, he ain't fucking with you. So why? Oh yeah, because talking about him brings fucking viewership to your shit. Again, between Eric Bischoff and Jim Cornette and Vince Russo, only one of them is writing wrestling for television. It's Vince Russo. Nope, nobody else out of the 3. So why the fuck do you guys keep talking about him, keep bashing him, keep burying him? Look at the numbers. The numbers don't lie. They were better than all of your guys' numbers before he got there compared to when he left. He increased everywhere he went. So just knock it the fuck off. I don't understand why you would talk about somebody so much if you hate him. You know what I mean? I hate this guy that lives next door to me. I don't fucking go around talking about him. We're not going to talk about him on this podcast. Why? Why the fuck would I talk about someone that I hate? Again, jealousy. Hate is jealousy hidden inside. And that's why, because jealousy. And I don't give a fuck what anybody says. That's fact. That's all I got for news on my end.
When Cornette was challenging Russo to like a street fight or something?
Yeah, Cornette challenged Russo, said he was going to fucking fight him. He'll beat his ass whenever they're in the same room. So why won't you go on a fucking podcast with him? Again, why can't you're not man enough to fucking be on a screen talking to each other? You can't do that. Russo would do it. He wouldn't fucking back away. So why the fuck won't Cornette do it? Why won't Bischoff do it? Because he'll fucking slaughter him with facts. And they don't want they don't want to be made look stupid and ruin their whole fucking brand and everything, because that's exactly what he would do, is slaughter them with facts. And it's bullshit that they keep running his name in the ground for no reason, when without him we wouldn't have had the Attitude Era. David Arquette would have never been champion, which is still talked about 20 years later. Everybody fucking shits on it, but it was still talked about. It's still fucking talked about. So obviously it made an impact, positive or negative. He wrote it, it made an impact.
Well, the winning the WCW title was a bigger accomplishment in wrestling than Arquette ever got as an actor. And, that's not... I mean, his biggest accomplishment was probably landing Courtney Cox, let's be honest.
For sure, and you're right, though. I would rather win the WCW title than fucking, on a scale compared to what he's accomplished in acting. That's a fair point. I'm glad you said that, because that makes all the sense in the world. And apparently them two were DMing each other, and Arquette said he's embarrassed that he won the title. He should have never won the title, and he thinks it hurt the sport and blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, dude, shut the fuck up. You won the WCW world title. What the fuck? What are you crying about, bro? And now you're wrestling again. If you never
I'll give him a little bit of credit, because apparently the story was that he donated the money he got from his WCW world title run, meaning David Arquette, to the widow and the family of Brian Pillman. And that's a good thing. So,
that is good.
Some of these guys, bro, they just have to take themselves... Don't buy into other people's opinions. And I can only imagine that when you're the person of focus like that, like take, for instance, to go into my other realm of interest, film. The actress from the show Saved by the Bell, Elizabeth Berkley, who did a movie you might have heard of called Showgirls.
Yep.
25 years later, she's still stigmatized as the woman, from Showgirls, this kind of cheesy B movie with a lot of nudity, a lot of sex, stripping, Vegas stuff. For whatever reason, she's always been kind of stigmatized, even though other people were in that movie. Other great actors, Gina Gershon was in that movie, but didn't get a lot of shit about it. And for whatever reason, Shannon Doherty became kind of this cultural whipping girl for bad acting or exploitation. But she kind of, went away for a while, and she suffered because she was so young, 22 or 23 when that movie came out. But, 20 years later, she still looks fantastic, and she's doing Dancing with the Stars. She's had a great life, and someone like her who's got a sense of humor about it, someone like David Arquette could take lessons from. So, you got to have a sense of humor about yourself. Look, a month and change ago, April 30th, and then May 1st, when I first got exposed to the Vince Russo Brand Family, the audience, even getting 5 or 6 messages from guys like yourself, JG, some other cool people with a wrestling podcast out in New York City, people contacted me, literally, Cole, just 4 or 5 people messaged me directly and had different things they wanted me to be involved in. And that was, believe it or not, that was a little stressful for me. Because when you get a little taste of fame, even as I called it, and trying to be respectful of that attention, but 5 minutes of podcast fame, if you can imagine the pressures or the attention for being David Arquette, WCW World Champion, or, in the case I mentioned from Hollywood, Elizabeth Berkley from Showgirls, or any type of situation, or even people that find themselves in a GIF or in a meme, that type of attention, if they seek it or not, it can be a lot of pressure for people.
Yep.
And I think Arquette, I never met the guy, and maybe I will, maybe I won't, but I think he's got to be a little more self-depreciating. If he's a big wrestling fan, and if he's trying to wrestle now, why not have a sense of humor? Be proud. Hey, motherfucker, you are a celebrity wrestling world champion, and I don't think any wrestling fan holds that against Arquette personally.
Nope.
I think, if anything, they kind of hold it against where the company was at. You know what I mean?
Yes, sir. So that's
people gotta lighten the fuck up sometimes. But
hey, you know what? Real quick, they're gonna be talking about us in 25 years for what have they done to our sport. You can find us on YouTube, the Cole Sports Corner podcast on YouTube, on Twitter. It's my time now, 18. Mike, what's your Twitter?
Mikey Messier on Twitter. Mikey with a Y. Mikey Messier. And, for all your Mike Messier needs, wants, and desires, if everyone could check out MikeMessier.com. And something I don't mention a lot on the wrestling podcast, but I'm actually involved in a film festival, Avalonia Festival. So if you go to Distance from Avalon, Distance, FROMAVALON, distancefromavalon.com. Look for the Avalonia Festival. It's a film freeway, top 100 best reviewed festival. And if you have a film or even film photography, a poster or teaser, enter that son of a bitch. Even TV series and web series have categories. Enter into Avalonia Festival, everybody.
All right. I'm ready to get to the match. Are you? You said you had a couple more things. Are you ready?
And I got something that's hardcore, bro. So if people have hung with this long, maybe I should have brought this up earlier. And I almost feel like I'm walking on uncharted territory right now, Cole, because this is something that's been on my mind for a fucking long time. So
this is the place to get off. Anything goes on this show, man. So
all right, well, here it goes. Folks, there's an incident in professional wrestling history that there was an intense incident. And it wasn't a fun night. It wasn't a good night. It was a very disturbing night, and I happened to be there for it. It's an incident that people are talking about over 20 years later. It's an incident that was revolting, disgusting, and a major pro wrestling organization could have gone out of business, possibly, or their damage was done. Let's put it that way. But the damage done was not really just to a wrestling company. It was to a young man, a guy who really people, I think, misunderstood where this guy was coming from, and people have shown a lack of sympathy, a lack of empathy, and a lack of understanding. And this guy is someone who I got to meet, and so I want to show that picture. And Cole, I don't know if you can show that. Just show my screen. Make sure people see this picture right now.
It's up.
That picture is of a young man named Eric Koulos. And Eric Koulos was in a pro wrestling match in Revere, Massachusetts, I believe in November of, I want to say 1996. And that match did not end very well. That match ended with Eric bleeding profusely and really getting damage to his body and to his forehead, and getting a toaster oven smashed on his eye socket.
Jesus Christ.
What I want people to think about is that this story has been talked a lot by people that weren't there, that people that heard second information, that people that were in the dressing room when it happened. I'm talking about pro wrestlers that I respect from ECW that were there, but they were in the dressing room. Well, guess where I was, Cole?
We're in the crowd, baby.
I took this fucking picture because I was in the press section. I was in the press section for that match, and that's a photograph that I took. And that's one of the last photographs of this young man before that match started.
That's insane.
So, what we're going to talk about next episode, if this wasn't the greatest teaser of all time, is that if people are watching this show for the first time and kind of going along and having a good time, or maybe they want to, share the YouTube links starting whenever I started talking about it, on this show, I'm going to discuss my personal perspective of the fucking mass transit incident. The New Jack, Eric Koulos mass transit incident. It's a story that my perspective's never been told. And we all have a limited time on this earth, Cole. So there's no time like the present. Now that this technology exists for me to share this story, and now that the exposure with Vince Russo, the brand, and now that the people watching this, whether it's anyone watching this story will be told. And it'll be from a point of view that you haven't heard from before, which is my point of view. Other people have told their story, but I'm going to tell mine, and it's going to be fucking interesting. Let's put it that way.
So what you're saying is next week we're going to have some inside information that nobody else in this world has.
Well, I'd like to say this. It's my personal story that I experienced it from the press section, and I did talk with the parties involved after, namely Paul Heyman and the kid, Eric Koulos and his father, and the family. I didn't talk to New Jack directly about it, but I talked to New Jack ironically before that match, a couple hours before that match. But my perspective lends itself to that bigger question of, do you promote or do you support as a fan wrestling promotions that you question their ethics? And the reason why this whole big tie-in is because since that night, if people want to look, if they don't know the story of Eric Koulos, look into it on YouTube. There's news reports. It was on the nightly news in Rhode Island, okay? That this kid, he was underage when he was in this match. Everybody knows it now. But the point that people don't, as a little bit of an inside thing, people have often said that the kid had no business being in the ring, and I agree. But because he was underage and he wasn't trained at that ECW level, he wasn't supposed to be in there with New Jack at all, wasn't promoted. But if a 16-year-old kid or a 17-year-old kid who was big and strong and went to a New England Patriots versus New York Jets football game, and somehow a football player got injured, and the kid went up to the coach of one of the teams and say, "Hey, I'll play football." And the coach said, "Well, you're a big, strong kid. How old are you?" And the kid said, "Oh, I'm 18, sir," or "I'm 21, sir." and the coach put the kid in the football game, and the kid got his head snapped, or got a concussion, or got his leg broken, wouldn't people have an issue with the NFL? Wouldn't people have an issue with the coach of that specific football team?
Man, yes, yes, sir.
Yeah, people don't seem to have the same issue, and never did, with the captain, in this metaphor, the captain of the football team, one Mr. Paul Heyman. The guy that I've always had a problem with is not necessarily New Jack, but fucking Paul Heyman. And so when people sing along with Paul, and they do the, I am the advocate for Brock Lesnar, my steroid wrestler, and all that shit, I silently think, does this motherfucker have a conscience? Do people remember that this fucking supposed wrestling genius that everyone loves, and who did help with ECW tremendously and put a lot of guys on the map, guys that I fucking have the utmost respect for, Joey Styles, Axl Rotten, Balls Mahoney, all the great ECW legends that I fucking loved ECW as a fan quite a goddamn bit. But the big blemish on Paul Heyman's moral record, which I will talk about, is, yes, the Eric Kulas incident, the mass transit Revere incident. This has been bottled up for a long time.
Ooh, I can't wait till next week.
Next week.
I can't wait till next week. Everybody better tune in after that teaser. That is the teaser of all time right there. Ooh, I'm gonna be here in your face, and I can't wait. You know what I mean? So everybody better watch, listen, and follow and subscribe our pages. It's gonna be big next week. I really can't wait. And also next week I'll be coming to you live from California. I'm leaving for California on Monday. Me and my family are taking a vacation for a couple days, but the Airbnb I'm staying at has got Wi-Fi, and we'll be on the beach. We'll be going live from California. So that'll be.
Well, why didn't you mention you're going to use Airbnb? You could have used Mike Messier's referral code for a discount.
Oh, my girl's dad took care of it. He took care of the Airbnb for us. He lives out in California, so he took care of that for us.
Well, that's good. MikeMessier.com at the upper top. All people who want to take a vacation this summer, go to MikeMessier.com at the top. You can see Mike Messier's referral code, and you can hear my personal Airbnb experience when I went to New York and New Jersey last month. Let's get back to wrestling, Cole.
Yes, look at that. You guys get Airbnb discounts on what have they done to our sport. Where else you get that? Where else you get that, baby? All right, SummerSlam 2000. All right, let me start it off. I'll go over my notes. I was pumped up. Woo! First ever official TLC, I believe, right? That's correct? First TLC?
I believe it was the first ever TLC, yes.
Starts off hot, and I got a little something to pick on here. A frog splash to a guy in the corner. When's the last time you've seen a fucking splash in the corner?
Was that Jeff Hardy, or which one was that?
That was Matt Hardy. No, it was Jeff Hardy on Ed. No, it was Edge. Edge went both sides. Edge went on Devon over here, and then he hit Matt Hardy over here. But when's the last time you've seen a splash in the corner on the ground?
Those guys don't do that type of match, folks. If people are watching Monday Night Raw every week and that's their wrestling fix, you got to dig deep and watch the TLC 2000, because those 6 individuals, and also, in the course of those matches, you had Lita coming out. Later on, you would see Spike Dudley and Rhino and so forth. But the way that those 6 guys especially, beat the fuck out of each other and themselves is just highly entertaining. We're glad that all 6 of those guys are still with us, still relatively healthy. We know Edge had to retire early, but those guys just went balls to the fucking wall. What a match.
Yeah, it's just the double Russian leg sweep off the top of the ladders, full Nelson slam off the top of the ladders. Jeff Hardy took a fucking nasty bump and hit his head on the ladder. But later on in the match, fucking Jeff Hardy got knocked the fuck out. He did a swanton off the ladder on the side of the ring, and he's stiff as a fucking board the minute he hits the fucking ground. And you see the ref put his fist in the air. Now they do X, but back then he put his fist in the air. The other ref came over, put his fist in the air, and this he was just stiff for a good fucking 10 minutes. Just stiff. And he was knocked the fuck out, got back up and took a couple more chair shots, and finished the match. Nowadays, that shit ain't gonna fucking happen, which is good, because that wasn't safe. That wasn't safe at all. And that's what I have a problem with, is these motherfuckers, WWE wants to act like they didn't have any idea about concussions. They're not responsible for any concussions, blah, blah, blah. That motherfucker was knocked out cold probably 100 times in his career, but for sure on that video, you see him stiff as a fucking board, and then he's still in the match taking chair shots. Okay, he wants to continue the match. Tell the fucking ref to tell the guys quit hitting him in the head for the rest of the match. He was just fucking unconscious. He was. He got UFC knocked the fuck out. I'm talking stiff as a board. Go back and watch it. It was at like the 11 minute 35-second mark, somewhere in there. He's on the side, jumps a swanton on Bubba Ray Dudley's on the tables. Bubba Ray moves, and he's fucking knocked the fuck out. That to me was insane because they let him get right back up. I mean, he laid there for a minute and then he got back up. Matt Hardy knocked himself out. He got pushed off the ladder. He was climbing the ladder. They pushed it backwards. He went through 2 tables on the outside and hit his head on the fucking guardrail. And both refs again came over, put their fists up. He was hurt, knocked the fuck out. You didn't get a good video like you did on Jeff, but you could tell he wasn't moving. There's a thing called selling, and I understand what selling is in pro wrestling. There's a thing called being knocked out, and he was knocked the fuck out. Lita came out as you said, and then Edge hit her with a nasty spear. She hit her head on the ladder. I mean, I seen him stay down there and whisper in the ear. He probably said sorry. Edge is a clean worker. You know what I mean? But she took a nasty spear. Dudes don't even take spears like that today. That spear looked so real. That's the last. I mean, that was a great spear. She fucking took it like a champ and smacked her head on the ladder. And of course, Devon and Jeff were hanging from the ladders, or from the title belts. Devon fell. Edge and Christian threw a ladder at Jeff Hardy and knocked him down. Which, I mean, you're fucking throwing a ladder at a human being. That's fucking amazing to me. But if you remember, I said the last match we reviewed, Edge speared Jeff off of a ladder, right?
Right.
At this match, Jeff's hanging from the belts, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And so now we're going to have a climax of both of those things at WrestleMania 17.
Well, and I think I'm trying to think if there was that was TLC at 2000, and I'm trying to remember if there was something in between that and the WrestleMania 17 match. I think there might have been, but we'll have to double check.
Yeah, if anything, yeah. I mean, if there's another match, I thought WrestleMania 17 was next because it's SummerSlam, and then I figured they'd hold off till WrestleMania. But
we'll double check first. We want to make sure because the beauty of that feud, and it really did start with the Terry Invitational tournament in like September, October of '99, which was Edge and Christian versus the Hardy brothers, the Hardy Boys. And, then the Dudleys got involved in the Royal Rumble match we talked about last time, and all the way to WrestleMania 17, and I'm sure they did other house shows and all types of good stuff. It was like a 1.5-year feud between 3 teams. You just don't see stuff like that anymore. You know what I mean?
No, it's like I haven't watched Raw or SmackDown or any other wrestling since, besides Rocky Mountain Pro again. Rocky Mountain Pro on Twitch, Thursday nights, 8 o'clock Mountain Time. Because since we started watching these matches, because nothing compares to this, and this wasn't even the best time in wrestling. We just picked a random series of matches to start reviewing, and I think we picked the best fucking way to start. These matches are amazing. Those guys went out there and put it all on the line. That's one thing I forgot to say. When's the last time you've heard a crowd that fucking loud from start to finish? From start to finish, it was just fucking insane. And then I will say this: Edge and Christian at the end of that match when they grabbed them belts, they had heat. Heat. Right. It doesn't exist in wrestling anymore. They had it does with Chris Jericho gets heat. Don't get me wrong, Chris Jericho gets heat. But not like they used to back in the day. There was fucking heat, and it was awesome. The crowd was up and down all match, cheering the baby faces, booing the heels, doing what fucking wrestling was all about. You know what I mean? Now we got, and they did chant, we want tables, but that has to go along with the fucking match. They're not chanting, this is awesome, oh yeah. Right. You know what I mean? So it's good. It's good to hear crowds like that. Again, commentary, it's so simple. If WWE would have better commentating, I feel like their product would be 1,000 times better. Just them commentators fucking selling what's going on, selling the athletes. JR is one of the fucking best commentators to ever do it, in my opinion, if not the best. He's just, oh my God, this is amazing. We've never seen anything like this before. The only place you can get this is the WWF. Like, you just put over 5 fucking things in 2 sentences.
Right. And he was really he's had a couple of peaks. I mean, Jim Ross had a real peak with the UWF in like 1986. When he was with WCW in like the Steamboat Flair, then Flair versus Funk era in '89, he had a peak. And when he came over to WWF, I think it took him a couple of years because he had some issues with his Bell's palsy. But when you're talking about that 1998, 99, 2000, 2001, to use a Michael Coleism, that's vintage Jim Ross. I mean, he was on all fucking cylinders. I think the last match we talked about, the Royal Rumble 2000, you didn't even need the King. You didn't need Jerry Lawler because Ross was so spot on that whole show.
Yeah, them two together is pretty sweet. But like I'll go back to if WWE could just even have good commentating, I think that would help their product and give at least people something to pay attention to. You know what I mean? They're over there making jokes about each other. They're not putting over what's going on in the ring. They're not saying anything about these fucking athletes. You know, their commentators are saying, "Oh, we've never seen this before," when we have seen it before last year. Shit like that. They're just so lazy on every aspect of the fucking wrestling. And then we watch these series of matches, and I'm just like, you could do it back in 1999, 2000, but you can't do something similar to this in 2018 when technology's advanced. There's more ways to fucking, do whatever you did back then now. It's probably easier to do what you did back then today. So I don't understand why you can't do half of what you did back then today.
And we see a guy, Tattoo Neck, as I lovingly refer to him, a guy that I had mixed feelings about, maybe that's what he plays on, Corey Graves, who, you talk about your friend, or not your friend, but the guy that you like, CM Punk, and I have respect for CM Punk, but Corey Graves with this whole Twitter thing, late night drunk, Tattoo Neck.
In his feelings.
It's just, he was doing some weird stuff, tweets on CM Punk, and the guy had just lost a fight, meaning CM Punk, and Corey is kind of like throwing Punk under the bus for not hanging out with him anymore or not wanting to be associated with pro wrestling anymore. And it's kind of one of these things where there have been some stories, like there's a U-shoot with Hornswoggle, where Hornswoggle, of all people, so that CM Punk got mad at Hornswoggle for giving out the phone number of a mutual friend, or Hornswoggle asked Punk for a guy's phone number because Hornswoggle lost the guy's phone number, and he didn't think Punk would mind because Punk knew that he being Hornswoggle, had the number before. And so there's been some stories about CM Punk where he is like a very cut and dry, you're either in or you're out, you're my friend or you're my enemy.
But I get where he's coming from with that, because I wouldn't want to talk to anybody associated with that fucking company after they did what they did to him. They fired him on his wedding day, fucking via FedEx, bro. They knew when his wedding was. You know what I mean? Like, fuck that. Yeah. So he just said, fuck it, I don't need you guys. You know what I mean? He's like, I'll just do it on my own.
Well, I get that, but in the particular Hornswoggle case, which it's funny, the Hornswoggle case sounds like the John F. Kennedy files. It was making a point that that was when those guys were still with the company. So my basic point was that it's been talked about in several different ways that Punk is maybe a testy type of guy. There was a story floating that Colt Cabana, even with all this trial stuff going on, apparently the rumor innuendo was that Colt Cabana was backstage at a WWE show like within the last year or two, and Punk found out about it, that Colt went backstage at a WWE show and was pissed at Colt. I don't know CM Punk. I've met him briefly twice. I think he's had a hell of an interesting week. I'll give him that. At the end of the day, he got his ass kicked. He got over 500,000, and most importantly, he's got a beautiful wife, AJ Lee, or whatever her real name is. But I think I would actually like to see her back in wrestling, which I've said a few times, but that's ultimately her decision, of course.
She's busy writing New York Times bestsellers.
What about CM Punk was really appealing to you as a fan, Cole?
just how he would deliver a fucking promo and how you could feel it came from his heart, man. What I was talking about earlier. You could just feel that he was into that shit. I'm the best in the fucking world, and he thought that. There's nobody better than fucking me. I'm the best. And you could tell that he felt that shit. And he made me believe that he was the best in the world. Nobody out there today in the WWE has a character that makes me believe anything. That's the problem with wrestling. Characters. CM Punk made me believe that he was the best in the world. Every time he touched the mic, I'm the fucking best. Nobody's better than me. I did this, I did this, I did this, I did this. I got fucked over here. Blah, blah, blah. I'm the best in the world. His promos, man. His promos.
Okay, his promos. And that's a great way of putting it. And I think what can happen with wrestling, especially with WWE, is if for any fans still with us watching, and when you watch Raw or SmackDown next time, count the number of times you hear this phrase, tonight in this ring. And the wrestlers usually say it in the promos. Tonight in this ring. And they all say it with the very same cadence. And to me, when you hear that, I don't know if they purposely make them write that into every fucking promo, but it gets to be very beyond cliche. It gets to be annoying. And I think what can happen, Cole, is that if the promos are being written by the same creative writing team, and I guess they have to do that in order to make the time cues for the show, it gets to be redundant so that every voice of every performer, every sports entertainer, wrestler, whatever you want to call them, they all start to sound monotonous. And sometimes you have someone like, say, an Alexa Bliss, who, because she has a very distinct look, and she can back it up. I do think she's a good wrestler. But because she has a very distinct look,
she can definitely back it up with that booty. Sorry.
Well, she's hot, fucking gorgeous, but she also has a very snide, she's the evil cheerleader. She's the mean girl. Yep. And I think that's something that I do think is great. That I think that WWE has over, say, New Japan, is they have this beautiful, talented women's roster, and you watch New Japan, and what do you have? The Golden Lovers instead of Alexa Bliss. So, I mean, WWE can kind of hang their hat on that. But my point is, when you hear these same kind of repetitive promos, it gets to be a little annoying. I do want to talk about New Japan real quick, if I could.
No, go ahead.
Go ahead. Segue. Call it peer pressure. I'm not the biggest New Japan.
Say no to drugs, kids. Say no to peer pressure. Say no to peer pressure.
Say no to peer pressure. But this time, Mike Messier said yes.
That's okay.
People have been saying that this Dominion show is the greatest wrestling show ever, and because of the peer pressure, and I figured we're doing this podcast. I've been known to be critical or negative or honest or brutally honest with pro wrestling WWE. But if I'm going to come out here and share my opinions with people, I have to be more informed. So I did go ahead and I did get the New Japan World $10, and came out to $9.93 for the month. And I started to watch Dominion. I haven't watched the full show. I'll refrain from a full opinion until I've seen the whole show. But I do want to, just say that, yes, it was peer pressure that got me to watch this, because all these people saying how great this show was. And I finally said, well, if I'm going to have an opinion about wrestling, then I need to watch the current choices. And if I'm not happy with WWE, which I'm not, then I have to be open-minded. And even though New Japan doesn't have women's wrestling, or maybe I'm not totally into some of the things they do, I'm going to give it a shot. So I'll keep you updated with that.
Yeah, let me know if it's good. I'll mess around and I'll buy the network. I spend so much money on subscriptions, I'm about to cancel my cable bill, man. It's ridiculous, bro. It's ridiculous.
Well, on top of that, I spend a fair amount of time and money on, let's call it the alternate wrestling scene, as far as nostalgia stuff, as far as, wrestling contraband. I always tell people, if they ask, have a backup in case. And people think I'm crazy, but it's like the guy who hunkers down with baked beans, like cans of baked beans and bottled water and baking soda and soap, in case there's a nuclear fallout. always have your wrestling contraband, folks, because we don't know if the WWE network will be around forever or if they'll go the way of MySpace. So you want to make sure you have your VHS, your DVD, even your Blu-ray of wrestling contraband, old WCW tapes, old WWF tapes. Have some stuff stocked up somewhere in case the network falls through. And people might think that's funny or goofy, but it's not, because it's sugar and corn syrup. We all need our wrestling. Yes. And if we can admit to it, then we'll be okay.
I think WWE Network's been stuck at the same download number, same area for like the last 3 years. If they don't get new content out there, it's not going to be around for much longer, because the shit they got on there is horrible. Table for Three's all right, but they only give them 15 fucking minutes to talk, so that ain't enough time to get anywhere. You know what I mean? So I mean, that could be a great show they have if they fucking Swerved was. I thought Swerved was going to be cool. Shit, horrible. Ride Along, same thing. It's scripted. They can't even be themselves on Ride Along. They need to have reality on there. They need to have fucking... That's what... It needs to go back to reality and not fucking everything scripted from the minute you take a step outside that curtain. Like, again, the two things that could fix WWE overnight is better commentary and less scripts. I know it's simple and everybody says it, but it's really obviously not that simple. Better commentary, less scripts. Let them be themselves. We don't need bra and panty matches. We don't need fucking people on fire matches. I'll even be okay without the fucking pyro. But if you had better commentary and more freedom for these fucking guys to do their job, your product would be 1,000 times better by next Monday.
What's your opinion on Morrow, the commentator Morrow, who I guess is doing NXT, and he had his little movie, the film that he had on Showtime, the Bipolar Rock and Roll. Have you seen the movie, or what do you think of his commentary?
I need to see the movie. I want to see the movie. I'm probably going to watch it on the plane ride to Cali. But I think he's the best commentator in the company.
Okay. I want to give a couple of shout-outs to some people that have been supportive. We had a fan who actually let me know that the Vince Russo would be kind of helping promote us on this episode. On Twitter, this is all I have to live for. Kind of a cryptic name, but he sent me a nice note, and it was nice. So this is all I have to live for on Twitter. Some of my Facebook buddies have given us some love. My old college buddy Ed Hardman, the man on the street himself, Damon Campanana, who's going back to college for his master's degree. Aaron Wujcik and his son, who he's raising to be a fine wrestling fan. I always tell Aaron to not let his son just be a WWE fan, but his son loves Ronda Rousey. And, it's Gregory Scott up in Massachusetts, Michael Williams in Pennsylvania. So a lot of support. Kevin Bowden, even, a guy who I actually wrestled. People don't know this, Cole, but I actually had a very short-lived pro wrestling career. And this guy, Kevin Bowden, ended my short-lived pro wrestling career.
Yeah?
Yeah, I lost a retirement match, and I stayed retired. I swear to God. I try to be the only wrestler to have the integrity to stay retired after he lost a retirement match.
Awesome.
I just trying some random wrestling thoughts this week, folks. We are getting, and look, our video cast tonight goes to some different places. Because we know that you may watch this video cast, you might share it, retweet it. It might have been shorn or retweeted, if shorn's a word, shared. But we know that TLC 2018 is coming up, basically this Sunday night. And we can sit here and make a bunch of predictions. But a week from now, that video cast would be no one would give a shit because the show would have happened. That being said, my little prediction will be... I'm going to predict that Ellsworth does make his comeback, and he helps Alexa Bliss win the women's Money in the Bank ladder match.
He's definitely coming back, because on Twitter he said a while ago, a fan asked him if he was going to be there. He's like, I'll be in China that day, and then all of a sudden his booking in China got canceled. So he will. I guarantee James Ellsworth will be at Money in the Bank.
Well, I'm predicting that he's going to help Alexa win. I'm predicting a James Ellsworth, Alexa Bliss run, so to speak.
All right, here, let's get out of here, man. Anything else you want to say before we sign off?
Been watching a lot of old school wrestling this week. On our buddy JG and I have started the Generating Heat podcast, and we did the Four Horsemen, Ole Anderson, and my wrestlers of the week. We're gonna do it real quick.
Yeah, go ahead, get him out there. Keep that
But
going.
because I haven't gone through and I haven't seen the Chris Jericho match and all the big matches and Kenny Omega from Dominion yet. So with that being the asterisk, that maybe they'll get delayed gratification. I'm going to give the wrestler male of the week, old school style, not to Arn Anderson of the Four Horsemen, but to Ole Anderson. Ole Anderson is going to be my wrestler of the week. Many, many years past his prime at the Four Horsemen. And the reason why is because Ole Anderson, if you look into this guy's history, and he's not the favorite guy of everybody, but he's a guy who went toe-to-toe with Vince McMahon as long as he could. He had a lot of faults, we thought we saw the last of Ole, but here he is again.
Yep.
And just kind of like that fucking old grizzled bastard who saved his money, did well with his money. You still see these shoot interviews with Ole Anderson, a curmudgeon fucking tough guy, but he brought a lot to professional wrestling. The last Battle of Atlanta, he brought up Arn Anderson. He did a lot of things leading to the Four Horsemen. The Black Scorpion gimmick. I mean, all these things and Ole does have a sense of humor about himself. And you can see, if you YouTube, you can hear like Ole doing these shoot interviews with RF video, and I have mixed feelings on that, but just the fucking humor of this guy.
Yep.
It's just an interesting choice for Wrestler of the Week, but I'm going old school with Ole. And the other person, female Wrestler of the Week, I want to stick with this motif, old school, kicking it to the 1985, 1986, female Wrestler of the Week, Nicola Roberts, Baby Doll, the Perfect 10. I believe she also wrestled as Andrea, the Lady Giant, or Nicola Roberts. And why would I even do this? Because she was not inducted into the Wrestling WWE Hall of Fame with the Four Horsemen. But if any female should be with the Four Horsemen, this lady did it all. And she has a daughter now that's in pro wrestling. Baby Doll was just a gorgeous woman, 6'2", really ahead of her time. A strong, kind of athletic woman, but she was used still in that managerial valet role. But she did a lot with Tully Blanchard. If you've ever seen, maybe we'll do this match next week on top of our Hardys thing. Magnum TA versus Tully Blanchard, Starrcade 85, I Quit match. So that'll be the assignment for you, Cole, and everybody else. Watch Starrcade 1985. If you have time, watch the entire pay-per-view, the entire show. It's a pay-per-view in a sense it was closed circuit, but it is on the network, I believe. But if you don't have time for the whole show, go to Tully Blanchard, Magnum TA. It's about the 8th or 9th match on that show, and Baby Doll's in the corner. But if you can get his...
Nobody puts Baby in the corner.
No one puts Baby Doll in the corner. But Baby Doll is my female wrestler of the week because I'm kicking it old school. What have they done to our sport?
I'm gonna say a couple things, then we'll get out of here. Again, thank you, Mike. I appreciate everything you do for our what have they done to our sport. Again, this is episode 5. We go all over the place, but we always wrap it together. I love it. That's exactly how I described it on Castrating the Marks. I said I say one thing, Mike takes it to left field, I take it to center field, and all of a sudden we end up back at the home plate. It works magic. I don't understand. Everything happens for a reason. Again, thank you to the Russo Brand family. Thank you to Vince Russo for putting us together. Again, this is our first episode going up on Russo's platform on YouTube, so that's going to help us grow so much faster. You can find me on at It's My Time Now 18 on Twitter, Cole Scharff on Facebook, Jets Fan Cole on Twitch. Mike, go ahead, plug your social media places one more time.
MikeMessier.com for you filmmakers and film photographers. Check out Avalonia Festival on Film Freeway, or go to distancefromavalon.com. YouTube, Mike Messier. You'll see my smiling face. And Facebook, Mikey Messier. LinkedIn, I'm in there. I'm a screenwriter for hire. I'm an actor for hire. Go to YouTube, Mike Messier, acting reel. And look, Cole, both of us probably feel the same way. if a pro wrestling promotion's out there, whether it's the National Wrestling Alliance or whoever else, hey man, we're available. So if you want to talk about passion and information and knowledge and a different slant on things, if a pro wrestling company is looking for a commentator or a ring announcer or a manager or whatever, I'm open for discussion. And yes, as a creative writer, I was in Titan Tower. I had a job interview. No, they did not hire me. That's another story. But the fact of the matter is, I do have $1 million idea that's on paper, and I can share it with any wrestling company that has television outlet. And I have an idea, or more than one, but one specifically, that could really be the template for a long-form program that would work for any promotion that had 20 or 30 people on the talent roster. So
get a hold of Vince Russo and Rocky Mountain Pro for that, bro. They just got on TV. Send them a fucking email.
That would be great.
All right, guys, thank you. That's the end of episode 5. Check us out. Tell your friends about us. Tell everybody about us so they can listen to us. Get the word out there. We're gonna, like I said, in 25 years, you guys are gonna be talking about Cole Scharff and Mike Messier because of what have they done to our sport. Have a good night. Have a good weekend. Happy Father's Day to all you fathers out there. Good job being and stepping up and taking care of your kids. We get a bad rap. Father's right's a joke in this country. I'm going through it right now myself. So keep up the good work. Happy Father's Day to all you good fathers out there. Have a good weekend. We'll see you next week. I really hope you enjoyed that last episode like I did. Always good content here at Jets Fan Cult Twitch page. Get the word out there. Tell people about it. Share, like. I'm going to have more platforms. I'll keep people updated on that. Look out for the next episode presented to you by Jets Fan Cult Twitch page. Thank you. Again, I hope you enjoyed.